Welcome to Cap 7, Flip Lesson number 4. The title of this lesson is, Are You In or Are You Into? And our primary topic today is going to be about the difference between using the preposition in with the ablative case versus using it with the accusative case. So although that's our main topic today, in plus the ablative versus in plus the accusative, we have several other topics we're going to address as well, such as plēnus with the genitive, the term immō, and the use of the preposition e versus ex. Let's start with our first topic. Topic number 1 has to do with prepositions. And in this case, we're going to start off talking about something that we're already very familiar with, in plus the ablative case. So here we are in the atrium of the house of Julius and Aemilia. And Aemilia is already there. She's right inside of the atrium. And so how would we say that in Latin? Where is Aemilia? Ubi est Aemilia? Aemilia in atrio est. In atrio est. It's the preposition in with the ablative case, but we're already very familiar with that. What happens, however, when instead of having the preposition in with the ablative case, we find in with the accusative case? Well, let's see. Here we are, back in the atrium of the house of Julius and Aemilia. Now, Aemilia isn't there yet. She's walking towards the atrium, and in fact, she is walking into the atrium as we speak. Now, I can't get her to go in front of the picture, but that's okay. So she's walking into the atrium. There's obviously not a static sense there, as in she's in the atrium. She's in the process of going into the atrium. So how would we say that? We would ask the question, quo it? To where is Aemilia going? And we would answer, Aemilia in atrium intrat. In atrium intrat. Into the atrium she is entering. Aemilia in atrium intrat. So in summary, when we use in plus the ablative case, we're essentially looking for an answer to the question where, which in Latin is asked with ubi. And our answer would be Aemilia in atrio est. And there's a sense of status to that, that's where she happens to be. That's where she is. Whereas when we use in plus the accusative, we're really looking for an answer to the question to where, which in Latin we ask with quo. To where are you going? And our answer would be Aemilia in atrium intrat. That is the place to which she is going. That is the place into which she is entering, in this case, Aemilia in atrium intrat. Our next topic is actually very, very simple. Our next topic is about the idea of plēnus plus the genitive case. Now, it's important to note that plēnus is an adjective. It's an adjective just like magnus, magna, magnum, which means that it will change to match the gender and number of the noun which it's describing. So let's see how that might work. So here we have a saccus. And that saccus is going to be full of something. In other words, the saccus will be plēnus of something. In this case, the saccus is full of, or plēnus, of apples. How would we say that in Latin? We would say saccus, hic saccus, we learned that the other day, hic saccus, this sack, est plēnus of what? Malorum, of apples. We see again, here's another saccus. Now this saccus is going to be plēnus, full of pears. In other words, hic saccus plēnus pyrorum est. Now we're going to move these sacks out of the way because we have another example of something being full in this story, and that would be with our dear friend Julia, who is very sad, as you know, because she is afraid that she has an ugly nose. So in this case, Julia, we're talking now about the eyes of Julia. So not a saccus or an oculus, but oculi. And you'll notice that the adjective plēnus has changed to plēni now because we're matching it with oculi. So we have oculi Juliae plēni sunt of what? Of tears. Lacrimarum. Oculi Juliae plēni sunt lacrimarum. That's how the idea of plēnus plus the genitive case works in Latin. Our third topic is also pretty straightforward. Our third topic is the idea of immō. Immō is used to communicate the idea of a negation, or in other words, on the contrary. So, for example, when Julia asks Sira, Num nasus meus foedus est, Sira? What's Sira going to tell her? Of course she's going to tell her no. And as you can see, Julia is looking for that negative answer. She doesn't want Sira to tell her that she has an ugly nose. She wants her to tell her that of course she doesn't have an ugly nose. Well, what does Sira tell her? Foedus immō formosus est nasus tuus. In other words, ugly, on the contrary, immō formosus est, it is beautiful. Your nose is beautiful. Formosus est nasus tuus. Of course, Sira then, after she tells Julia that Julia's nose is as beautiful as her own, she asks Julia, as if just to make sure, Nonne formosus? Oops, I have a little typo there. Let me fix that. She asks, Nonne formosus est nasus meus? And Julia, of course, doesn't return the favor. Sira, as you can see, is looking for a affirmative answer. Yes, of course, your nose is beautiful. But Julia, who's probably too young to understand that that's what Sira is looking for, just gives it to her straight. Immō, on the contrary, foedus est nasus tuus, in other words. Immō foedus est, on the contrary, it is ugly. Poor Sira. Of course, this chapter ends with Sira being silent and looking at herself in the mirror, possibly feeling a bit depressed. Topic four is going to be another topic that you're very familiar with. Topic 4 has to do with the preposition ax. There we go. I'm trying to get this to... There we go. That's what I wanted. Ax. Now, you know x from the verb exire, which means to go out, exit, in other words. So, sometimes, however, in this chapter, you start to see not just x, but also a. What's the rule for that? Well, the rule is going to be basically exactly the same as the rules that apply to ab. In other words, we'll find a before consonants, such as in this sentence. Julius malum e sacco sumit. So there's our a before a consonant s, right? We'll also find x before vowels and h. In other words, as in this sentence, ancillae ex atrio exeunt. So we have x now in front of the vowel a. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that both ab and x are somewhat flexible, so you will see from time to time x before certain consonants. But generally speaking, the general rule of thumb is a before consonants and x before vowels and h. So in summary, we've talked about 4 things in this presentation. We've talked about in with the ablative versus in with the accusative. We've talked about plēnus with the genitive. We've talked about immō to negate or to express the idea of on the contrary. And we've talked about one of the interesting features of the use of the preposition ax before consonants and vowels. That concludes our lesson for today, our lesson number 4. I hope that you found this helpful. We'll see you in class.